Writing can be a long, lonely process, but it doesn't have to be. You could work with a co-author, not a ghostwriter, a co-author. On today's episode, you'll find out how to make the most out of working with a co-author and avoid the traps and pitfalls that can come with any partnership. Hi, I'm Dan Janal, the author of more than a dozen books, including Write Your Book in a Flash. I'm a ghostwriter, book coach, and developmental editor, and no matter where you are in the writing process, I can help you write your book. Now let's get started. You might be saying to yourself, I have a great idea for a book, but I don't have a lot of time to write the book. Or I know a lot about this topic, but there are other people who know the rest of the story and they can write it better than I can. Well, fear not. Those are actually good things. Those are good things to know that you can do because you can work with a co-author. Lots of books are written with two people. They both share credit. They both share the work. They both share the responsibilities, and they both share the rewards. So isn't that kind of cool? Now, how did I discover this? Well, you'd be saying to yourself, well, I don't know. This sounds like something that only unknown authors would do. Well, no, that's not the case. I once met Ken Blanchard at a conference. You know Ken Blanchard. He's the author of The 1 Minute Manager and Who Moved My Cheese. Those books have sold more than 40 million copies. He's also written 50 other books, but he never wrote a book by himself. And I asked him, why did you work with a co-author? You're a smart guy. You could have written these books by yourself. And he said, very humbly, I learned so much when I work with another person. And I thought that was really cool. Now, you don't have to be a Ken Blanchard to work with another person. You could work with a colleague who knows about your topic. For example, you might know a lot about chocolate, and she might know a lot about peanut butter. Put them all together, and you get this beautiful Reese's peanut butter cup of a book. So it can work. I've actually interviewed people on my podcast, and I'll link to that so you can hear their stories as well. But here are some of the upsides and downsides and things you should consider when you are co-authoring a book. First of all, there's the credit. Whose name goes first? You know, we all have egos. Is it alphabetical, or is it the thought leader who goes first, the person who's more well-known? Is it the person who's going to market the book more effectively? There's no right or wrong answer. It's whatever you and your co-author decide is best. Next, royalties, money. It always comes down to money, doesn't it? Okay, well, how are you going to split the money? Is it 50-50? Is it 51-49? Is it 95-5? You know, it could be anything. Anything in life is negotiable. So you and your co-author can figure out how to divide the royalties. And speaking of dividing the royalties, what about dividing the work? Is that 50-50? Are you going to write half the chapters and she writes the other half of the chapters? That's been done. Some people write a first draft by themselves and then show it to their co-author. And the co-author rewrites, revises, adds material, and takes it to the finish line. You know, that can be done too. Again, there are no right or wrong answers. It's all about what fits into your schedule and your way of working. Let's talk about the workload. Who's actually going to do the lion's share of the work? Is it going to be evenly split? That's something for you to decide. You know, it may be that you have a big name co-author and she writes one chapter because that's what she really does well, and you write the other 99% of the book. And that's perfectly fine if that's what you guys agree to. So figure out what works best, because the worst thing that can happen is that you don't agree up front and you don't put it in writing. And that's when problems happen. You need to have a contract that spells all of this information out. The contract should also say who has the final word, because there's just you and her. And that's one vote yay, one vote nay. What are you going to do? Someone has to say, the buck stops here. Of course, you could hire a book coach or developmental editor like me to step in and referee. that's perfectly fine too. But if you don't, then you need to figure out who is going to be the final arbiter of the case. Next, the marketing. Who's going to market the book? Both of you? One of you? You may feel taken advantage of if you are doing all the marketing and she isn't, and you're splitting the royalties 50-50, because managing expectations is really, really important. You might start out as friends when you're writing the book because everyone has great ideals and high expectations, and frankly, you're working with a friend. You wouldn't want to work with someone who you didn't like or trust. So you do like them and trust them at the very beginning. But as work goes in, your relationship may change. So let's get it on paper. So there's a document that we agree is the final arbiter. Next thing to consider is the spin-off business. By spin-off business, I mean there could be additional books, articles, speaking engagements, consulting, coaching opportunities. All of those can stem from a book, whether you're a single author or a co-author. So let's say you write the book with your co-author and a big company calls you both up and says, hey, we'd like you to consult with us. And she says, this is my deal. And you say, no, this is my deal. And it can't be both your deals. Well, who gets the business? Maybe you decide that if something comes over the transom, it's treated one way. Maybe you decide if you go out and actually market yourself for speaking or coaching or consulting, and you get that work, that it's 100% yours. Well, you need to put that into the contract as well, because your co-author, who might be a bigger name than you are, might feel that she is entitled to part of that money because her name helped you gain that visibility. Here are a couple of other random ideas that I think would help you when you're working with a co-author. First of all, be transparent. If there's something going wrong, don't let it simmer and fester. Bring it up right away so it can be addressed. You might want to hire a book coach who knows the publishing process. That way they can arbitrate any disagreements you have, provide an outside opinion, an outside resource, and bring in more ideas to your process. You also need to respect each other's strengths and to know each other's strengths and each other's weaknesses. And also, don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, at the beginning of a project, you have certain expectations, but as the project goes along, you might find certain stumbling blocks in the way that need to be addressed. You might have a busy travel schedule. They may have a busy work schedule or a new client that comes in that takes up more of their time. So be very transparent about any kind of impediments or any kind of obstacles that come into the problem. Also, recognize that the book is a collaboration. You have to work at the relationship, just like any kind of relationship, whether it be family or work relationship. You need to be intentional and transparent. You need to let the other person know what's going on if there's a problem. Also, have fun with this. You really can have fun working with a co-author, and you can forge a wonderful, wonderful friendship as well as you get to know each other and build on each other's ideas and trade off each other's strengths and grow as a person as a result. So I hope these ideas have helped you. You can find additional information and insights on a podcast I did with Richard Citrin and Michael Couch. They're both psychologists who wrote a book called Strategy Driven Leadership, the playbook for developing your next generation of leaders. And you can find that podcast in this link. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to check back on our channel and see dozens of other episodes on how you can write your book in a flash.